What if the exact words, "I'll just wait one more year," are the four words that quietly cost some Australians tens of thousands of dollars, permanently, without them ever realizing it happened? Not a market crash, not a bad investment, just a sentence people say to themselves, almost automatically, every single year. "I'll sort my super out next year. I'll start contributing more next year. I'll figure out the retirement stuff next year." It sounds harmless. It sounds responsible even, like you're being cautious rather than reckless. Except right now, in 2026, that exact sentence has already cost real Australians a genuine permanent financial loss. Not hypothetically. Not eventually. It already happened this year to people who kept saying next year one too many times. Today on RetireScope AU, I'm going to show you exactly what just happened, why the same clock is already ticking again for a different group of people, and how to tell the difference between a genuinely smart delay and one that quietly costs you more than you'd ever expect. Before I get into the story, if you've got a habit of telling yourself you'll sort your super out next year, this video is genuinely for you, so hit like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone you know who's been saying exactly that for a while now. It might be the nudge they actually need. Let's start with what just happened, because I think it's the clearest example I've come across of how waiting quietly turns into losing. Superannuation has something called a concessional contributions cap, which is the limit on how much can go into your super each year at the lower concessional tax rate through things like your employer's compulsory contributions or salary sacrifice. If you don't use your full cap in a given year, the unused portion doesn't just disappear straight away. It carries forward for up to 5 years, as long as your total super balance sits under $500,000, which sounds like a fairly generous safety net, and in a lot of ways, it genuinely is. But 5 years is still a countdown. And on the 30th of June this year, 2026, the unused cap from the 2021 financial year expired permanently. Gone. Not reduced, not rolled over again, completely gone for anyone who hadn't used it by that date. Here's what that actually looked like for a real person. There's a case that's been circulating through Australian financial planning circles. A project manager in his early 30s named Liam. Back in 2020-21, he was earning $82,000, and his employer's compulsory super contributions came to $7,790 for that year. The cap at the time was $25,000, which left him with $17,210 of unused space. He didn't top it up that year. Life happens, priorities shift, and he told himself he'd deal with it eventually. That $17,210 sat there in his carry-forward balance for 5 years, quietly waiting for him to use it. If he'd made that contribution and let it compound at a fairly conservative return over the following 30 years until retirement, it could have grown to somewhere around $84,000 in today's money. Instead, because he didn't act before the 30th of June this year, that entire allowance simply expired. He can't reclaim it. He can't extend it. It's gone permanently, and there's no appeal process for it. I want to be honest with you about why this story genuinely gets to me. It's not that Liam made some catastrophic financial error. He didn't gamble the money away, he didn't get scammed, he simply kept meaning to get to it, the way most of us keep meaning to get to things. And that's exactly what makes this so relatable, and exactly why I think it's worth talking about properly. And here's the part that should genuinely worry you, if you're someone who tends to put these things off. This exact same clock is already ticking again, for a different financial year. The next unused cap sitting in that 5-year countdown is from 2021-22, and it will expire on the 30th of June 2027. If you had unused concessional cap space in that financial year, and you still haven't used it, you've now got roughly a year before it disappears the exact same way Liam's did. The cap back in 2021-22 was $27,500, and depending on how much your employer contributed that year, or whether you made any additional contributions of your own, there's a real chance you're sitting on unused space right now without even knowing it. Stack that together with any unused amounts from 2022-23, 2023-24, and 2024-25. And for someone who's been under-contributing consistently over the past several years, the potential total carry-forward contribution available in the 2026-27 financial year could realistically reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for the right circumstances. That's not a small opportunity sitting on the table. That's a genuinely significant one, and it comes with a permanent expiry date attached. So that's the financial side of waiting. But there's a second kind of one more year that I think is even more common, and honestly even more consequential, because it's not about a form you forgot to fill in. It's about an entire life decision. There's actually a recognized pattern in retirement planning circles called one more year syndrome. It describes people who've genuinely reached their financial goals, people who could comfortably retire, and yet they keep working anyway, telling themselves it's just for one more year, for safety, just to be sure. I understand the instinct completely. There's a real fear underneath it, market uncertainty, the unknown cost of healthcare down the track, the nagging feeling that maybe the number you've saved isn't quite enough, even when the actual math says it is. That fear is completely human, and I don't think anyone should feel embarrassed by it. But here's a story that captures why this pattern deserves real scrutiny, not just acceptance. I came across an account of someone approaching this exact decision, having recently lost several close friends within the space of a single year. That kind of experience has a way of completely reframing how someone thinks about timing, about whether just one more year is actually about being financially careful, or whether it's really about fear of stepping into the unknown. Sometimes those are genuinely the same thing. Often they're not. And there's a harder truth buried inside this pattern, one that most retirement content won't say out loud. But I think you deserve to hear it clearly. Your super can wait for you. It compounds, it recovers from downturns, it has decades of runway. Your health and your time do not offer you that same patience. I think about this in a fairly simple way. If you delay a super contribution by a year, in most cases, you can still make it up, provided you act before your carry-forward window closes. If you delay actually retiring by a year, hoping to travel with a partner, spend more time with grandchildren, or simply enjoy the years you worked decades to earn, that year doesn't roll forward the same way. If circumstances change during that year, someone's mobility, someone's health, someone's simple ability to do the things you were planning to do together, that specific version of the plan doesn't come back around next year the way an unused super contribution technically can. I'm not saying this to scare you, and I want to be really clear about that. I'm saying it because I think people deserve to make this decision with their eyes fully open, rather than defaulting into one more year purely out of anxiety, without ever actually checking whether that anxiety matches their real financial position. So how do you actually tell the difference between a smart delay and a costly one? Because I don't think the answer is simply never wait. Sometimes waiting genuinely is the right call. The real question is whether your waiting is being driven by an actual number or by a feeling. The first step is calculating your real position, not your gut feeling about it. MoneySmart's free retirement planner lets you put in your super balance, your expected age pension eligibility, and your likely spending, and it gives you an honest projection. 10 minutes of your time tells you whether you're genuinely short or whether you're financially ready and simply feeling nervous, which are two very different starting points for the exact same decision. The second step, and this connects directly to everything we've covered, is checking your own unused concessional cap situation right now. Log into MyGov, go to the ATO section, then Super, then Information, then Carry Forward Concessional Contributions. It shows you exactly what's sitting unused across the last 5 financial years, and critically, it shows you what's about to expire next. Given what just happened with the 2020-21 cap, this is genuinely worth 5 minutes of your time this week, not next year. The third step is being honest with yourself about why you're actually delaying, whatever the decision is. Ask yourself 3 straightforward questions. Have I actually hit the number I calculated I needed? Am I genuinely still enjoying the work itself, separate from the money? And am I delaying purely because of a specific identifiable financial gap or because of a general undefined feeling that something might go wrong? If it's the first and second answer, pointing toward yes, and the third pointing toward a vague feeling rather than an actual number, that's worth sitting with, honestly. And the fourth step, if you do genuinely decide that waiting is the right call for you, make sure that year actually works for you rather than against you. Use the current financial year's full contribution cap. Check whether there's carry forward space from previous years you could use in the same window. If you're going to wait, at least make sure the waiting itself is doing something productive, rather than just letting another opportunity quietly expire the way Liam's did. Here's what I want you to walk away with. One more year isn't automatically the wrong decision. Sometimes it's genuinely the smart one. But it becomes expensive in 2 very different ways the moment it stops being a calculated choice and starts being an automatic habit. Financially, through contribution caps and tax advantage space that has a real permanent expiry date. And personally, through time and health, which don't offer you a 5-year grace period the way your super does. That's exactly why RetireScope AU exists, to make sure Australians are making this decision with real information in front of them, not just repeating the same sentence to themselves year after year without ever checking whether it still makes sense. I want to hear from you on this one. Drop a comment below and tell me honestly, have you actually checked whether you've got unused concessional cap sitting there right now? Or are you someone who's been telling yourself next year for a little while? Be honest. I genuinely want to know how many of you are in exactly this position. And if you know someone who keeps pushing their retirement plan back, year after year, without ever properly checking the numbers, send them this video today. Not next year. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.